Good morning and welcome to the 11th Annual Mayors Roundtable. My name is Katie Worthington Decker, President and CEO of the Greater Winter Haven Chamber of Commerce, and it is my honor to be moderating this important Polk Vision event for the third time. We are broadcasting today from the Polk County History Center here in Bartow, our county seat, and I want to thank the entire team here at the History Center for the warm welcome we've received this morning. As you know, because of COVID, it is just the mayors and county chairmen who are here with us today, as well as the fantastic team at PGTV and Polk Vision. So we don't get to play off the audience like we normally do, but we thank all of you who are joining us online to be an important part of this discussion. The Mayors Roundtable is a Polk Vision tradition aimed at expanding collaboration and collective advocacy amongst our community for the issues affecting all of Polk County. It is one of my favorite events of the year, as although I am Winter Haven through and through, our power comes from our one Polk mentality in this county. For the audience watching online, thank you for joining us, and I want to invite you to be engaged participants in today's event. If you have a question during the program, you can text in your questions to 863-258-1612. That number is, again, 863-258-1612, and it should be at the bottom of your screen as well. I believe that, as I said, this is displayed at the bottom of your screen, and you don't have to wait to send in a question. So feel free to go ahead and to submit that question, and they will be handed to me throughout the session. If your question is for a specific mayor or leader around the table, please indicate that in your text. If you're watching this on social media or YouTube, we aren't necessarily moderating those questions, so please use the text as your primary way to get us questions. We will try our best to address every single question or topic that is submitted, and you may hear topics combined to make sure that we can address as time allows. I would also like to say a special thank you to the Polk Vision Board of Directors for their leadership, the government team who helped to put together this event today, and our series sponsors, Citizens Bank and Trust, Polk County VOCC, and Tampa Electric. I would like to invite Mayor Mutz of Lakeland to lead us in our invocation and pledge. Mayor Mutz.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the privilege of being able to share our abilities and skills that you have provided with the community that we are able to serve. And we pray that as we talk about items today, that it would be something that helps to improve those lives across the board in a way that is glorifying to you. Thank you for the wonderful assets we have in our region in both people as well as amenities and resources. Help us to use them wisely. And we ask this in your precious name. Amen. Amen. Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mutz. First and foremost, let me say thank you to each of you around this table. I sincerely doubt that when most of you decided to run for office that you ever thought you would be faced with the issues that you have dealt with over the last 18 months. You were thrust into a national divisive debate about mask, vaccine, home rule, and goodness knows what else you heard about throughout the last year. But you tried to do what was best to navigate for the safety and health of your respective communities. I sat through many of those meetings. I know as humans, they were hard on you. And heck, they were hard for me to listen to as your constituent. So I have to say, above all, thank you so much for stepping up to serve the people of Polk County and your community. A few housekeeping items for the mayors. You have a mic in front of you. This mic is a hot mic, so please be aware of that. Please leave it on throughout the course of the day so that we ensure that our people watching at home are able to hear you. You also have a what looks like a Brazilian steakhouse, green and red card. I will not be bringing you more filet mignon if you turn it to green. However, this indicates to me that you would like to speak on the subject that we are currently talking about. So if you have it red towards me now, that means you don't want to speak. If you have it green, that means that you would like to address the topic that we are talking about at that time. We also ask that you keep your questions succinct. As you all know from doing this year over year, although it is scheduled till 11:30, that time goes very, very quickly. So please keep your answers to 2 to 3 minutes so we allow time for everyone to contribute. Okay, you ready? Now to the good stuff here. So based off the correspondence with the mayors prior to this event, the team here has developed several questions to start today's conversation. And as a reminder, you, the audience, can also submit your questions here to us today via the phone number on your screen. You all are so accomplished. So if I spent the entire time introducing each of you, we would be here till 11:30 just talking about everything you have accomplished within your lives, your careers, because most of you have full-time jobs outside of your public service. So we're going to start by going around the table. I'll introduce your name and the city that you represent, but we're going to start with a question. That question will be, what is the one opportunity or challenge you believe is the most important to your respective community at this moment in time? Here's the hitch. Please answer this without commentary or explanation using 1 to 3 words. Okay, remember, just 1 to 3 words, a phrase, because we are going to dive deep into a lot of those topics, so don't feel like you have to explain them. So we will start in alphabetical order by city. So I would like to welcome Mayor Tim Pospikel from Auburndale here today. It's a pleasure to have you here again, Mayor. And so I will ask you that same question. What is the one opportunity or challenge you believe is most important to your respective community at this moment in time?
Growth management.
Very good. Next, I would like to introduce Mayor Scott Shablam from Bartow. Same question to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I would say following through on the city's first ever master plan.
Very good. Mayor Samuel Berrien from Fort Meade.
I would say developing the city's first ever master plan.
Very good. I think you two should talk a little bit about what that process has been like. Mayor Morris West with Haines City.
Affordable housing.
Mayor Nancy Daly, Lake Alfred.
Growth management.
Mayor Michael Kehoe with Lake Hamilton.
Growth management.
There's a theme. Mayor Eugene Foltz with Lake Wales.
Affordable housing.
Mayor Bill Mutz with Lakeland.
Housing to support job growth.
Mayor George Hatch, Mulberry.
I would say growth management and housing.
Mayor Joe LaCascia, Polk City.
Water.
Mayor Brad Dantzler, Winter Haven.
Workforce housing and growth management.
And Chairman Rick Wilson with the County Commission.
Yes, that would be growth management.
Very good. So I think we have a theme here for today that we can kind of platform off of, springboard off of today. But we have a lot of topics that we want to cover today. So we will start with growth management. One of the topics you all talked about at last year's session was the census. And I think we were all eagerly awaiting, hoping we would get enough participation to give the realistic numbers of what we were all experiencing on a daily basis here. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know within the city of Winter Haven, from 2010 to 2020, our population within the city limits grew by 45%, which just sounds staggering. And I know that's reflective in all of our communities. So I'm going to start with growth management. I'll first start with the County Commission, if that's okay with you, Chairman Wilson. You obviously have a very large section of land within our county. So what are the main strategies that the County Commission is looking at to deal with growth management?
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, it impacts everything in our county, from our roads to our, for development. It impacts so much in the county that we look at all different sources of how we can help overcome this. We never dreamed that we'd have this type of growth. I never dreamed it when I was growing up in this county. I came back in the days when I've been here all my life, and but it's just working with our staff and trying to make sure that we stay on top of what all this does impact. And of course, trying to, there's so much building going on in this county, which we need. We're running out of housing in this county, so you get both sides of the deal. And we try to work with, with everybody that we can to make sure this happens. And we try to, of course, I'll just, and we don't want to curb it, but, at times you want to think about it because it's a very big issue. But, we just look at how we can make this work. I mean, if it comes down to the sheriff, there's more people to police, there's more people, there's more garbage. So we look at all different areas, how to make it better and how to make it better efficient. And in this last year or so, that has been really tough, with people and trying to get the job done. And so, there's no one answer to that question. It's you have to look at all the each individual areas of what we do and try to make it work. And, people keep coming. This is a great place to live. I said one time, and I got criticized for it, if it was left up to me, there wouldn't be another person to come to Polk County. But it's a great place to come. I get it. But, I liked it the way it was, when we didn't have traffic. We didn't have, but, this is a great county to come to and to live. So it's our jobs to try to do whatever we can, even thinking out of the box, to make it work.
Thank you. And Mayor Fultz, you just turned your green card, but you were actually in the hot seat in my mind because your community in Lake Wales just approved development, 10-year build-out, large development that could essentially double, if not triple, the population of Lake Wales. So talk a little bit about what was that process like in your head looking at, that's a community-changing type of development. So speak a little bit about that and then add your additional thoughts that came to mind there.
Well, first of all, as you know, with the right people in place, good things happen. We do have a great city manager and a great development services manager now. And with that going forward, they have been taking a look at everything that's there, taking a look at old ordinances that need to be changed, and that brought a lot of attention to Lake Wales. The city currently has water and sewer permits and infrastructure capacity to deal with the current and projected growth over the next 5 years. We're expecting 8,500 new homes in various stages of development at development process. The most immediate growth management issues that we have is transportation capacity. Because when we look at the roads, and most of them are the county roads, look at those roads, we know that we need to have something done to those roads in order to handle the capacity of traffic that we're going to pick up with these new developments that are coming in. And not only that, we also are looking at our water capacity. And with the water capacity, we are associate members of the PRWC, the Polk Regional Water Cooperative, and we're also exploring to find our own AWS, the alternative water supply. So I believe that with everything in place and us going forward, we are growing responsibly and knowing that our infrastructure is in place for the water and sewer and looking for upgrades on the roads. And if we can get that, I believe that we'll be in shape to do that doubling or the tripling within the next 10 years or so.
Thank you. And we're going to dive back into road infrastructure in just a little bit, but I do want to give an opportunity to Mayor Shawblam from Bartow. And of course, you talked about master planning and going through that master plan as well. So how are you addressing this issue?
Thank you, Katie. I think one of the challenges that has continually come to my mind is that Bartow's been in the position of trying to retrofit a city that was not built to accommodate the type of growth that we're coming into. And I don't know if you ever grew up playing the old game SimCity. If this were SimCity and we could start with a clean slate, we could totally build the type of environment that would accommodate all the folks, to Commissioner Wilson's point, who understand Polk County is a great place to live and want to be here. But that's not our reality. And so in Bartow, where we're looking at 800 plus homes coming in on the north side of town, Clear Springs being very close to inking a development agreement, or finalizing a development agreement with us that'll add 2,000 to 3,000 more out on the east side of town. It's incumbent on our commission, more than it's ever been, to be more prescriptive in the type of development that we've been in the past. I think for a long time, the city has been comfortable allowing just market forces or developers to drive the type of development that occurs in our city, but I think those days are gone. If we're going to be able to support the type of growth that's coming in, we're going to have to be much more intentional in crafting the built environment necessary to support that. And that's part of what that master planning effort, Sam, was, that at least as I approached it, to help shape those things, because we're famous for kind of creating plans and having a really pretty binder that sits on somebody's shelf and never really do anything with it. But to create an implementation schedule along with a funding mechanism tied to that to help the city accomplish some of these big dreams that she's been thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Pospikel?
Thank you. In Auburndale, we too are developing a master plan on the 559 corridor in the city of Auburndale. We have over 3,000 homes in different stages of the development pipeline. And as Chairman Wilson said, and Fultz and Scott spoke about, is we've got to look at capacity, we've got to look at the availability of our natural resources, that we can go ahead and do this moving ahead successfully. What we've done in the city of Auburndale, we're developed a plan called the Lakes District. In Auburndale, we held many public meetings, and for the citizens and the residents to come to these meetings and share their thoughts on what they thought were important for this to move forward. And we've had great success with that, but it's being able to come together. We've got great developers in our city, and it's working with the county and the parts of our development plan that are in the county, and getting us all on the same page. But Polk County, Auburndale, all our cities are no longer secrets. This is a great place to live, and people are beating their feet to get here.
Absolutely. And Mayor West, your community is in that sweet spot of being very centrally located for individuals that want to make it their home in their home base, but also have that capability to commute if they happen to have a job in the Orlando market, with yourself and your neighbors in Davenport. So talk a little bit about how Haines City is dealing with this as you look at orange groves that are being redeveloped. I feel like every other week I hear about someone looking in your area.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Katie, for that introduction. But Haines City, as you all know, that Haines City and Davenport on the Ridge is probably one of the fastest growing areas in not only the state of Florida, but also in the United States. We sit up at the top. I can tell you that Haines City growth management, our growth management, we're at 43.7%. And that's very, very high, because the national average on growth management is only 33.5%, and Haines City sits at the top of that. And growth management not only affects just the growth of the city. There's a domino effect. When you're talking about growth management, you're talking about, you're talking about the water. You're talking about waste disposal. You're talking about transportation. You're talking about the schools. All of that affects the growth management. So when you're growing, all those other things has to grow with your city. So if you don't have the growth there, you don't have the other problem. But it's a domino effect. Haines City is really, really growing at a rapid pace. But our motto is keep Haines City moving forward, and we're going to do whatever it takes to keep our growth coming. We welcome each and every one, because of Disney World so close to the Polk County line there, and Haines City and Davenport. That is what causing the growth over in the Ridge, and we're thankful for the growth though, but we will accommodate it.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Daley?
Thank you. I think the major, since everybody is talking about growth management, is we have to get ahead of it with planning. And I know all along, we've all had our comp plans and our planning ideas. But in Lake Alfred, over the last year or two, or a little more, we had developed our CRA, but we also did a downtown overlay so that we had the choice of what the downtown is going to look like when they're done. The Parks and Rec master plan, so that we can make sure that we're planning for all of the recreation items that we're going to need for the new houses that are coming. We rewrote our whole ULDC so that we have more give and take with the developments that are coming in, and the developers, trying to work with them, they work with us, and it's a lot better for the quality that we're going to end up in the end. But we also have to remember we have to support public transportation, because if we just keep building roads wider and wider and wider, we're just going to turn into one big freeway. But there's got to be other things that we can look at, like mass transit, and working with the Citrus Connection, or working with other entities, the Brightline, Sunrail, those kind of things. That I'd love to see a monorail go the length of 27, and everybody could just jump on it, and we wouldn't have to have traffic. But I think the planning is probably the biggest thing that we can do, the help that we can do for growth management.
So let's, well, Joe, I'll give you an opportunity to speak to this, and then we'll move on to the next question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Polk City is a little bit different, I think, than some of the other cities because of the rural and urban area that it basically has. I mean, our city downtown consists of roughly one street, okay, essentially. And what we see happening is our destiny has been predetermined simply by our geographic location. If you draw a line from north to south in Florida and east to west in Florida, you will put a pin at exit 38 and State Road 33. And that has not escaped the attention of folks who want to put in distribution centers. We have 12 to 13 over 1 million square feet each of distribution centers between North Lakeland and Polk City. Now, everybody is on our case for saying, you can't allow this to happen. Well, yes, we can allow it to happen. Why don't you tell your generational landowners who never thought of selling family thousands of acres in the past, there are people flooding them with money more than they ever thought of happening. You're talking about Polk City folks who've been living on these generational lands, and all of a sudden they're being offered millions of dollars, okay? And we have drones flying over Polk City all day long, mapping out areas, and then offers being made on those areas. So there's been a change in generations of not keeping it in the family and just carving out pieces for their families as they have grown. So that's where most of this is coming from. I think that there's nothing we can do about the distribution centers, and around them we have over 2,000 or 3,000 homes coming in at the same time that are bordered by a stop sign at one street, a stop sign at the other end, and we have 4 residential developments that the total of the homes coming in there will probably be over 1,000 homes. There's no way out to get to any place except this one road that is a stop sign at one end and a stop sign at the other end. So we really have a lot of work to do for infrastructure to take care of all of this, but it's no surprise because of as I said, our geographical location and where we are.
So for the people listening in the audience today, when a development comes to you at your commissions, at the county commission, et cetera, the planning staff has looked at them. Typically, there's a lot of conversations that come ahead of that, and there are a lot of questions that developers have to answer. One question I hear routinely at the Winter Haven, talk to me about traffic counts, talk to me about school capacity, because every all the lines cross, everything intersect, everything that you've talked about. How will this affect the sheriff's department? How will this affect the city's police department? So you all touched on a lot of things there. So I want to hone in on a couple of those domino effects, as you said. Traffic and roads is such a huge topic in this community. And even sitting where I am, I get a little nervous, for example, when Lake Wales approves what will be a fantastic development for your community. But when it's right on the border of Winter Haven, we start to have conversations of, well, what roads are these individuals going to use? And one of those would be, for example, Thompson Nursery Road, which is a county, under the county jurisdiction. So all of us overlap. All of us interconnect. Highway 27 is going to impact Mayor Kehoe here, and you'll feel the impacts of that development. So let's talk a little bit about, in your communities, while we're all sitting around this table, what kind of collaborations do you think can exist? How can we accomplish the needed road infrastructure when you don't necessarily control all of the ability to do the road yourself within your community? So I'll start this with Mayor Dantzler, if that's okay, if I can start with you in Winter Haven to talk about collaborations to get roads looked at that you may not necessarily control.
Well, one of the things that we've done in Winter Haven that I would recommend that you guys might want to consider, this is something that we did. We've all seen the videos of the Google car going around taking videotapes of for Google Maps. You know, we've all seen that. We did that in Winter Haven. We hired a company to come and analyze every city road that we have, and now we have a real good picture of our road inventory and the condition of each road. So now, when we're spending road money, we've committed $1 million a year just to repave roads. We're starting with the worst ones first, and we're working our way out. It's about a 15-year time frame, and so after 15 years, we're going to start over. But at least now we have a method to our madness about what roads are going to be improved. But to Katie's point, if we go back and look at how we participated in the Polk Water Regional Cooperative, I think we could do the same thing and the same type of a framework with roads, because you nailed it. I live off of Thompson Nursery Road. I see the traffics. We need sidewalks out there because people are walking back and forth. It's only going to get worse, but you got a county road, you've got Highway 27. Soon as you get off of Thompson Nursery Road, we've got Lake Ruby Drive, County Road, then we get Winter Haven roads. Everybody is connected, and it might be worth considering another initiative like what we did with water, which was highly successful and something I encourage us all to follow, because all these houses that we're developing all need water. We all want a shower, we all want to make coffee, so we need to stay committed to the water component, but we could do the same exact thing with roads, and everybody comes to the table and we talk about, because the Lake Wales development is a prime example, but it's going to be just like that in North Lakeland. It's going to be everywhere you go, we're going to have these issues come up. So if we have a forum organized like what we've done with water, but in terms of transportation, with the DOT at the table and the county at the table and the cities at the table, I think we can talk about these issues and maybe plan things out before they become worse. I guess that would be my suggestion.
Anyone else have anything that, yes, Mayor LaCascia.
Just to comment on what Brad said, I see the difference, and it's a great idea, but I do see a difference between PRWC and cities getting together as we collaborated for the PRWC on the water issue. The water issue has state money through SWIFMUD, which is funding about 50% of the total operation, and we're going to spend something like $300 million in the very near future. I don't see that kind of money being around to facilitate the infrastructure, the improvements that we would have to make, because there is no single funding medium to provide the dollars for something like that. And that could be a great problem with getting something like that done. Individually with cities or even with county, there's just not enough money to go around and do what they have to do as far as I'm concerned.
Mayor Metz?
The difference I see here, Mayor LaCosta, and I don't disagree that that makes our opportunity with water to work well, having that funding, is that, and I'll use Auburndale as an example, Auburndale's boxed by cities. And so it becomes imperative that Lakeland thinks about how Auburndale is being impacted as we think about their western border on our eastern border. And we've had those conversations because we don't want to be doing something that isn't in the best interest of what they do. That's going to happen to all of us increasingly. And so it's not that it becomes something that has to be completely Polk County wide. It is neighbor to neighbor. How are we making an impact and what could we be doing? And we're going to have to be wise enough about the dollars we can get federally for roads and apply, which are certainly some portion of that, but also about our own planning and encourage our cities to continue to work more cooperatively together as we do some of those things. And so that's going to take our city managers working together, and it is certainly going to take us as mayors working to try and encourage and enforce that so that as we have this compression in population that's an inevitability in our county, that we also recognize we have a responsibility to be strong neighbors, encouraging how we can grow most effectively.
Mayor Kehoe?
I think that mainly we need to have the state be a little more receptive to our needs. On the eastern portion of the county, along 27, all of the cities have gotten together and created a resolution to get the trucks out of the left-hand lane, and they have not been responsive to us. And that's what's clogging up 27. There's other issues out there, but I think the state needs to work with us too, and it's very important to the eastern portion of the county because the overflow is now going over onto Dixie Highway, and now that is getting bad, and we have some major issues, but we need to get the state to work with us.
Mayor Foltz?
There is so much need when it comes to roads, expanding, preparing for all of the growth that's coming to the area. And as Mayor Mutt said, financing is going to be one of the biggest issues that we're looking at. And the county doesn't have the money to do everything that needs to be done. And as we look at how everything is growing, especially around Lake Wales with the intermodal coming down 27 and 60, 27 and 60 had to have something done to it. And it is in transformation even as we speak because that's the crossroads of the Central Florida area going north, south, east, or west. But when we start talking about the inner roads, like Thompson Nursery, Chalet Suzanne, this is where all of the bigger developments are coming in at. And we need to take a look at that. Now, the TPO is responsible for taking a look at all of this, and they've got such a long list of everything. And then you have to look at the priorities on that list. And if your particular road is not brought up as a priority on that list, who knows how long you might have to wait before you can even discuss it at a TPO meeting. But in order to use our technical advisory committee member on the TPO to get that out there, I think would be one way to at least say, this is an important need that we have. At least get it on the list, even if it's not at the top. Then push to try to get it moved up in order to get some of these things done. There are a lot of priorities out there, I understand. But for each city, I think we have our own particular priorities, and we need to push forward in making that a high priority for ourselves.
So before I go to you, Chairman Wilson, anytime a community celebrates a new development, that will be very good for the community. It'll create jobs and all of that. And in a role like mine, we share it on social media with, yay, look what's coming. We've got all these jobs. Inevitably, as you all know, it becomes a long list of traffic or why isn't anyone doing anything about it, right? And so the other day, we posted about a new hotel property coming to the community and got that response. And I did a list in my head, and then I actually responded that, at this point, the city of Winter Haven is currently working with the Florida Department of Transportation on, I believe it was 6 major road projects. Now, of course, the general public, and we're all part of the general public, don't like the pace at which these projects can necessarily move forward. You have a study plan period, you have a design plan period, then you have a maybe get funded period, and then you have an actually get funded period. So, the pace can be a little bit slow to all of our liking. But to be able to communicate to this individual and many that you all are aware, and that's what I think this event today helps. You are aware of what those bottlenecks are. And of course, Chairman Wilson, you are the binding piece of a lot of that. You have certain roads that are impacted by what every community is doing. So please take the floor.
Yes, we do. To answer your question, and I'll just say this, and everybody in this room knows this, we'll never get ahead of it. Never. Not with the growth that we're having. We're sitting there talking about certain roads, Thompson Nursery Road, when we originally started talking about them. I mean, it's from the start of talking about it to the time it's done, you're talking years, 10 years. We've won wars quicker than we can build roads in Polk County. And it is a major, major undertaking. But it's like Mayor Foltz said, I mean, there's ways that we do it. We all have to do it. We have to, in your communities, you have to fight TPO, you got to fight for what you need in your area. You come to us. I do a lot of communications and work hard with TPO and with DOT to get some projects, which all y'all do that. You know how it's done. It's all boils down about money, and the amount of money that if we had our wish list in Polk County of what we would love to have done tomorrow, if that was possible, would be staggering. Especially with the growth that is coming. But like everybody knows here, is that we have to work hard for our area, but in Polk County, we got the whole area that affects everyone in this room. And then we have to, and your priorities is different than our priorities, but we try to mash them priorities together with y'all. It's, like I said, we'll never get ahead of it. We got to work hard to make sure it happens. And what we talk about today, in the county about roads in the future or coming close, and with the growth that we're getting, there'll be other major areas that we'll be talking about this time next year that we got to look at. We hadn't even got the planning stages or even know where the money's going to come from for the one we were talking about today. Mm-hmm. So it is a major undertaking. I think we all work together good on that, but you gotta put your foot down. I've always said that. Transportation you get to it other than 27 and on that side over there, things are pretty decent south of Highway 60. But when you get north of Highway 60, it turns into a nightmare. And that's what you have to look at. So that's what we are looking at. Mm-hmm. Thompson Nursery Road, we're talking about that. You're talking about how you want it done now. Well, we started our first phase on that. And everybody in this room knows just acquisition of the land, how long it takes to get that done. Mm-hmm. And then this day and time, the cost of these roads. I used to build roads in this county. My background is construction, contractor, worked in the phosphate mines and built roads. It's unbelievable what the cost is this day and time. But 10 years from now, today will be cheap compared to what it'd be in 10 years. So, but everybody in this room understands the problems we have. We got to work together. There's no doubt about it. We got to give and take, and we'll get it done.
Very good. Thank you. One more comment on this question. I'll go ahead and give it to Mayor West.
Thank you again, Katie. In the voice of the great late Dr. Martin Luther King once said that, individually we poor, but collectively we are really rich. I think Polk County, when I mentioned that, is that collectively as mayors from throughout Polk County, that when we make our trips, and we haven't made them in a while, for Polk County days, legislative days in Tallahassee, we have to go up there as collectively with the same initiative that transportation and roadways are our main issues and problem. The Florida Turnpike Association had a meeting on February the 9th, 2021, where we were looking and we were hoping that this would happen, that the extension of the Polk Parkway would come across, and that would alleviate a lot of our issues on transportation. But yet, they still not funded that project. So that's when I say collectively, we need to speak in volume. Polk County needs to represent Polk County and Tallahassee to make sure we go before DOT as a group, not as individual cities. And I think that we'll get a lot more done by going up there as a group. And I think we need to really look at doing that in the near future to get our transportation issue resolved, because 27 is a parking lot, I-4 is a parking lot. You don't go nowhere at certain times of day. Thank you.
Thank you. So water was another one of the subjects that you all mentioned as an ancillary effect, or really a primary impact when it comes to the amount of housing. You know, Mayor LaCascia, you mentioned the warehousing, whether it's warehousing or manufacturing. Manufacturing, which of course we always love to see, because that means products going out, not just empty cartons, that sort of thing. But those projects can take a lot of water when you come to manufacturing. So I wanted to open this up for those of you around the table that may be the representative or directly involved in the water cooperative. Would one of you be willing to give an update in terms of where that stands at this point? Do any of you Mayor Metz?
It is a super important opportunity for us as a county to work together and to stay together. When we look at the water cooperative, and we had a meeting yesterday on this, and in fact, I made this comment at the end of the meeting, we are going to have some cost pressures and some individual opportunities that sometimes we may want to pursue or consider pursuing as cities that will cost us if we do so as a cooperative. We have to link arms in this to work together to go forward to make sure that we make water available for the entire county. And so it's easy to become selfish for what we need in Lakeland from my perspective. I have to be just as concerned about what's happening in Fort Meade and what's happening in Lake Wales and what's happening certainly in Haines City. And so as we do so, and how are we working together in unity so that Swift Mud sees that as a regional cooperative that absolutely is sticking together and using test wells to trying to determine cost, and recognizes the fact that we're not going to fractionalize in this. It's important for us, as one of the big consumers of that, to have the rest of the cooperative know we are in it for the long term and to make sure that we do this in a way that is responsible. We are an inevitable growth area. We cannot work around the fact that we're going to have deep well responsibilities as well as some other alternative water options available to us in order to support that as we see the world today. And so we cannot let that tendency to want to start to cut and run take place. And this cooperation can create the additional harmonies that we need with respect to roads. And I will add on to that need, and I'm tangentializing your question at this point, but our need to make sure that we're using our impact fees appropriately. You know, we used to work on our impact fees thinking we want to attract people to Polk County. Now we have to think about our impact fees as funding what needs to be done within Polk County. And so that takes strength and fortitude to create those fees, just like we will have to do ultimately with water in terms of the costs that are associated with that. So a great opportunity for us to show leadership and a great opportunity for us to link elbows, and that is an important responsibility for us in this effort.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pospikel, would you like
Yes,
to?
I'd like to add to that. Mayor West, we need to add water when we go to Tallahassee and talk about that. Also, that's a good thing to add. As Mayor Mudd said, that water is not becoming, it is going to be, we're at the cusp right now. It's very important that we come together and stay together and work collectively. The money is large. The money is very, very large. But we've got the support of the district. If we come together, that they can handle 47.9% of the cost of this process that we're going through. If we don't have water, you could just put a moratorium on growth. That's it. We have nothing without water. Water, it's so hard to believe because every time we turn on the tap, water's always come up. So it's just something that we've always taken for granted. There are so many environmental negative environmental impacts that are happening and will continue to happen if we keep pulling the water that we're pulling out of the upper aquifer today. Like Mayor Mutt said, we've got to go deep. Going deep is expensive. But if we do this collectively, do this as a unit, it will bring the cost down. But I'm going to tell you, the costs are scary. The costs are scary, and we have to, again, we have to kind of like drop our borders. We have to lock our elbows to make this work. And we have to be at the table. We have to be talking about it. We have to make it a point to understand it's complicated. I've been sitting on that board since its inception. It's complicated. Just when you think you know it, it's just very complicated, but we have to come together on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Daley?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that the most cost-effective water savings would be in conservation, that we need more focus on conservation and more regulation and enforcement of conservation, less HOAs that require green lawns. In Lake Alfred, we are requiring WaterStar for all our new developments, which is going to help because it's going to have all of their fixtures are going to be water saving and less irrigation. We need alternatives to the grass, and it would really help along the lines of the cost of the water and the amount of water that we're going to need, because the new developments are going to require more water. If we can eliminate irrigation as one of them, that's going to be really helpful.
Thank you. Just one moment, Chairman Wilson, and then Mayor LaCascia.
Yeah, I would just like to say, there've been a couple of people here that's been talking about going to Tallahassee and needing to get money for, roads, water, during Polk County days and stuff like that. Let me just, and I know y'all are aware of this, your work is year-round with the legislators. I've seen some municipalities that, they go up and they try to put on our, which I'm in the same boat, our song and dance, in 2 or 3 days. But, we work hard year-round with our legislators in Tallahassee, and we're already working for stuff, been working for stuff this year, but just keep that in mind. Most everybody knows that. It's not if you've got needs and you want to get it done, you got to get with your people and put it in front of them legislators and stay in front of their face. And right now is the best time in the next few years coming up. Polk County is sitting in the right place with Kelly and with Ben. There's a lot of good things, if we'll work it right, can help alleviate some of the problems that we'll be sitting here talking about.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to change the subject, but I wanted to hit on that before.
No, advocacy is year-round, and that's an incredible point. Mayor LaCascia?
Yeah, at yesterday's PRWC meeting, there was a presentation about conservation, which Nancy was talking about, and it is very important, and it indicated what we can accomplish if we could do something a lot more. Each city can do more about conservation. There was a list, I think it was 12 of the 17 cities did not have a dedicated person in the city to speak to their individual residents about conservation. I think it was 12 or 13 out of 17. We have been trying to get the word out that wait until you flush the toilet and there's no water, because it seems to be the one thing that people think about when there is no water. It's very difficult to do, but we need to get out and talk to the residents. I think there has to be, there has to be a plan put forward, and I don't know who would do it, but I think we should all have the same speaking points. Someone should write something up about what the cities should be talking about to the residents. And it goes beyond our individual thoughts about it, because it's collectively, we're all looking for the same thing. And that's going to have to be done. Conservation is cheap, doesn't cost us a dime, but we need people to do it. And right now, most of the cities are stretched with personnel as well. But that's the first thing that has to happen, and yes, conservation is probably the most important thing at this point in time.
So Mayor Brad Dantzler, you in the city of Winter Haven have been working on a water master plan for the community itself, and actually have Winter Haven Water as a brand for
Right.
the water division within the city of Winter Haven. So speak a little bit about your outlook on water.
Well, the point I wanted to make in regards to, and I've already heard Mayor Pospikel and Mayor Mutz talk about, the numbers are staggering, and if you're not tuned into this thing, you don't realize how expensive this is going to be, and invariably, what's going to happen to each one of us, each one of our communities, there's going to be an opportunity when we can do our own thing, we can splinter off, we can set our own deals. We have to, as the leaders of our community, resist that. We have got to stay together through this Polk Regional Water Cooperative. It is so imperative, and they're watching us in Tallahassee. This is I don't want to say it's a test case, but it is almost. Everybody's watching how we do it. So we have, as the leaders of our community, we have got to resist the temptation to try to do our own thing and stay together. And Winter Haven embarked on a program 15 years ago, and and at first we were laughed at. We looked at things like surface water, how to use lakes and streams, and it was an all-encompassing program for water, and it was a gentleman named Mike Britt who was we call it the Mike Britt plan. That's what I call it. And it's now, in the beginning we were laughed at, but now it's become sort of the model about how to integrate all sorts of water, not just surface water, not just groundwater, not just streams, not just lakes. It's everything. So if anybody wants a copy of that, we'll be happy to provide it. We've done a lot of work on that. SwiftMud has I wouldn't say they've embraced it, but they've somewhat embraced it. They're not saying it's crazy anymore. So we've done a lot of the work on that. So if anybody wants that plan, I would say, request it. We'll be happy to provide it for you. And it's something that it's scientific and something that we've embraced in Winter Haven, and it's made a difference. So.
Well, Mike Britt's so passionate about it. He retired, yet I still see him walking around working on it. So you don't ever retire when you're that passionate about something. One last comment on water. Mayor Pospikel, did you have a comment on that?
I'd like to tag on to what Mayor Casher was talking about. This was brought to our attention. Well, it's been on the PRWC board for a long time, but I believe we've got a new person that's going to be handling this, and that's going to start reaching out, or that the cities have to reach out. This is a very, very affordable answer to gain about 5 MGD a day through this conservation if we all do it. And if we take that information, contact this group, and take it upon each one of ourselves that were at the meeting yesterday, and if you weren't, you can get that information, is to get and talk with this group to get help. Like you said, we're pressed in our cities to have somebody in the staff to do that, but I think if they can reach out and make it something that the cities can do, it will make a difference, and it doesn't cost a penny to do it.
Thank you. So I'm going to pivot a little bit. As you all know, the last 18 months has certainly exasperated some of the topics that we have talked about in the past. And one of those that came up to the forefront is we all went to pivot to work from home. As the students were told to do online learning, we realized pretty swiftly that even though Polk Vision, for example, the Central Florida Regional Planning Council, everybody had been working on broadband plans for, well, really since I've been paying attention, so 15 years or so, it became highlighted about the progress we had made and the progress we had not made. And so I kind of want to combine a question, an audience question, and a thought when we're talking about bridging that digital divide, but also as we're talking about creating smarter communities. So I want to give Mayor Bering an opportunity from Fort Meade to speak. You know, your community has created a smart city committee, correct? Yes. And so I want to give you an opportunity to speak about both the challenges of broadband as well as what you hope to get out of your smart city committee.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Katie. Down in the city of Fort Meade, when we were first faced with educating our kids from home, we experienced great challenges, and I'm sure around this room, we all experience those challenges.
And Mayor Berrien, I don't mean to interrupt, but would you mind moving just a little closer to the microphone? Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
And so, with that being said, a part of the reason why I wanted to get involved in public office is because I saw we needed to move forward with our digital infrastructure in the city of Fort Meade, and not only to improve the ability to educate from home, to work from home, or to provide a better service for our merchants in the city, but we wanted to be able to use that, as it's been talked about here with growth management. Fort Meade is a small town in which a lot of the growth that these larger cities are experiencing, people still like that small town home feel, and that's what Fort Meade brings to the table. And so we receive a lot of that spillover. And so we want to be that community that, although we're providing this service, we want individuals, professionals, technology professionals to say, hey, this is a small town, I can raise my family here, bring them to this awesome school in this community, but they're able to meet my needs, as to say, with regards to broadband. And so from that, we started the Smart Cities Initiative and the committee, which is composed of local business people, young people who have recently graduated college, because a part of that initiative is we want to focus on talent retention. Fort Meade is a place where people, we have outstanding individuals that are products of the city of Fort Meade, but they take their talents to other places that can meet the needs of their personal needs. And so we wanted to focus on talent retention. So that's one of the aspects of our Smart Cities Initiative, is what can we look into, how can we collaborate, and what is it that needs to be here to keep these educated young people here in our community. The other part to that initiative is we partnered with Polk County. We have a representative, Mr. Cochran, Ms. Webster. They frequent these meetings. And we started to focus on the middle school, high school area, in which we want them to be able to graduate with a certificate in hand, so they can graduate and go directly into the workforce in the area of technology. So we have a STEM focus there, and that unit is gaming. We want to meet the children where they are, what their interests are, and also provide industry certifications so that they can have an immediate impact into the workforce. And so the other aspect to that is to make sure we have the amenities in the community, throughout the community. We have a great librarian in Ms. Rose, who has taken on this project from the library perspective to address the digital divide. We were able to receive grants with regards to laptops that we give out to students, and they lease it for the entire semester. These are also adults. We provide literacy courses, and these adults come, and we say, hey, what are your needs? What do you want to know more about technology? And then when they supply those needs, we have those type workshops. We have a digital camera workshop where they come and say, hey, I have this digital camera, but I don't know how to use it. And so Ms. Rose is housing that type of workshop on a weekly basis. We have girls who code. We also had another program called Prenda, and this is a targeted effort to impact the lives of our children and to get them interested in the technology field. Everybody here knows that Fort Meade was really big on mining. Mining has now left the town. And so now we're looking with the Smart Cities Initiative is to replace mining with technology. And so that's what that's for, and it's going pretty well. We got some grants out there. We have an administration that is aware of this needs, and when we tackle those other major concerns that we have with infrastructure as far as water and sewage and our electrical infrastructure, but we're keeping also the broadband initiative at the top of that forefront as well. Thank you for time.
Well, and it's a good example. You all know how to walk and chew gum at the same time. You can tackle the most challenging issues while you're also thinking about the future. And I think that's a great example of that. Whenever we talk about something like that being good, someone says, well, why aren't you focusing on traffic? Well, we are focusing on traffic, but we also have to focus on many of the other things that go along. And congratulations to you on that initiative. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Mayor Shawblam, did you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am, just briefly. Expanding the city's fiber network is a priority for Bartow as well. We've, one of the things that I know our commission has heard time and time again is really the poor level of service. If you're interested in high-speed data access within the city, we have one provider who can do that. And I think I'm being overly generous to say that provider was not very responsive to the needs of our residents. And so we began looking at expanding our network, not just because we're the county seat, but because we want to provide a better level of service. And as that progress began, fortunately, we've had another provider come in. And if you drive around town, when you leave here, which you should all do before you stop and eat somewhere downtown, you'll see big rolls of fiber now that are being put in the ground. And fortunately for the city, that was not an expense that we had to incur. We were able to work with an outside provider to begin seeing that happen. But as a benefit to that, what we're hoping to see is not just an improved level of service, but to prepare us, as Mayor Berrien was saying, for the next generation of technology. We're fortunate in the city to own our own utility, and so the opportunity to do smart metering it really raises the level of service. And so what the commission's goal over the next several years is to see a pilot project take off in our downtown corridor and then expand ways, or look at ways to expand that throughout the rest of the city. And I'll tell you something, you kind of got me stirred up, man. I like to hear what the city's doing, and if Fort Meade could be a leader in that and show some of our other, small to mid-sized municipalities what that looks like, I'd love to steal some ideas.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for that, Scott. And at one point, it was our former city manager, Judd, was trying to set up a meeting between the two of us because she had come into the knowledge of some of the things that you were working on in Bartow. I believe it's Mr. Kavanakova, if I'm saying his name right. He's also one of the individuals on this Smart Cities initiative. But I think that with this type of project, and I know Mr. Kehoe could probably speak to this as well, we want to make sure that as a small community, that we're still able to provide the quality service that is being received in the Lakelands, the Bartows, so on and so forth. One thing as a resident, you never want to say, I live in this city, but I have to rely on a compromised or a inferior technology to have this small town experience. So I was thinking, and I'm glad that Chairman Wilson is in the room. How you doing, sir? And make sure you tell your daughter Lori I said hello. I work with her. But I think this is also an opportunity that we have to tackle this as a county, to make sure that Polk County is one of those counties in the nation that provides this fiber optics in the ground so that we can all be connected to the World Wide Web. So I would like to have a conversation more in depth about how something like that could take off.
Well, and my heart's aflutter because this is exactly what this day is about, is to share those best practices. And you also hit another thing, advocacy is all year round. So you don't have to wait till this to happen to talk to Chairman Wilson about these things. You know, in the chamber industry, we call it R&D. We're doing R&D on certain things. Rip off and duplicate for the betterment of all of our communities. So that's what today is all about, is to be able to share those. Anyone else that would like to speak to smart cities or to broadband before we leave that? Mayor Dantzler and then Mayor Kehoe.
I've mentioned this before. You know, Winter Haven, we have a dig once policy, and it's expensive. It's not that expensive, but we've been doing it for 15 years now, or 12 years. And we probably already have 15 miles of buried cable all up throughout the community. And I hear you guys talk about, in Bartow having to come back and retrofit, put cables down. It's like when developers come in and they want to not build sidewalks, and they want to give you money because they don't want to build the sidewalks, they go the sidewalks to nowhere. Well, if we will, over time, those sidewalks will eventually connect to another sidewalk. It may take 10 or 15 years, but ultimately we'll have a sidewalk system that works. It's the same way with this high-speed internet. Every time we tear up a road or tear up a sidewalk, we put down dark fiber. And it's paid off because we now have businesses in Winter Haven that have tied in. We don't provide the internet, we provide the cables. It's like a sewer line. We provide the sewer line. We don't actually provide the internet. Companies are doing that, and they're coming to Winter Haven now because we have this capacity. And it won't be long before we can connect with Lakeland, and we can connect with the sheriff's office and the school system, and we can start building this web, but we all have to do it. So I've challenged you guys on this in the past. I'll continue to do it. If we would just dig once policy, it's not that expensive. It takes time, 10 or 15 years, but ultimately we'll all be connected through this. So that's my point.
Thank you very much. Mayor Kehoe?
Yes, and as you pointed out, for the last 18 months, it's been tough for the children to get educated without having the internet. And the school board actually brought some buses in that had hotspots in them for them. We are looking at broadband for our town, and as everybody here knows, Lake Hamilton is probably one of the smallest towns in the county. And with growth coming in, it gives us a great opportunity to expand broadband as development comes in for the future, because we only have one provider also, and there are pockets within our town that the service is poor. So we are also looking at that same area.
Well, you may be a small town, but you're a beautiful town. And you have a beautiful new city hall. So if you have not been to Lake Hamilton recently, the amount of attention being paid and pride, it doesn't matter the size of your city, it's the pride that you have for your community. So congratulations to all the work that you're doing in Lake Hamilton there. So the next topic I wanted to address was housing. A lot of you talked about housing being one of the most challenging areas for your community. With that being said, there's a lot of housing being built, right? I read an article in the Orlando Sentinel about a developer who is actually developing something in Northeast Polk, and I'm not sure if it was in Haines City or Davenport. And he said, oh, we're coming to Polk County to build affordable housing. And then later in the article, you read it, and the starting cost of the home is $300,000. Well, the perception of affordable housing for outside developers might be a little bit different. There's affordable housing big A, affordable housing little a. There's subsidized housing versus attainable housing or workforce housing. So I wanted to start first by talking about what specific actions are your communities taking to address the issue of attainable and workforce housing. And so I will start, Mayor Dantzler, this past Monday, you all approved a workforce housing action plan. So I'll start with you, and then we'll go around the table for individuals that would like to speak.
Yeah, as we all know, none of us in cities build affordable housing. It's not our business. We in Winter Haven, we don't build the first house. What we can do and what we can all do in our communities is to encourage it. We can affect zoning, we can affect impact fees, we can affect utilities, all those kind of things to help bring this on. And this has been something in Winter Haven. We've hit it with a multi-pronged approach. We actually we hired the Tallahassee, Katie, help me. What's the
Florida
name?
Housing Coalition.
The Florida Housing Coalition. They'll come down and study your community and give you a work plan, and that's what they've done for us. They gave us 14 points, actual action points that we can put in place, and we adopted it as a commission, and it's now the law of the land of Winter Haven. We're going to go ahead and start on this. And again, what I was talking about with the dig once, it takes a long time. This is not something that's going to solve workforce housing right away, but at least we have a plan and we're working towards it. And as developers come in and they want to develop property, as part of the conversation, we bring up workforce housing. Is there some way that we can peel off a piece of this property, or is there some way you can make money? Because we know the developers and the builders are in the business to make money, but maybe they can make money doing part of the development for workforce housing. So we've got, because that's part of our conversation with these folks, We've got a lot of things on the drawing board that we can point to that will be workforce housing, but it's just not going to be in tomorrow. But again, we as a collective county, it's not just Winter Haven, Lakeland, Auburndale. We have to all do it. And if we'll all do it, we can all, even if it's a 1 acre tract, if we can find land that the city owns, and let's try to get workforce housing on land properties that we have. Let's be the tip of the spear. Let's be the leaders and do this, and all work together. And it doesn't have to be a 50-unit place. It can be 3 units or 2 units. It can be a garage apartment that's been renovated. It goes in for workforce housing. It can be any different numbers of things, but we have got to focus on this to keep pushing this forward. And every community is going to have a different solution, and that's great. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody's got their own thing. We're doing our thing. Everybody's doing their own thing, but it has to be important, and it's something that we have to continue to push forward. So.
And partnerships has been a key piece, I think,
Yes.
of that puzzle. And from the collaborations you've had with Hartford Winter Haven to the Winter Haven Economic Development Council and partnering with them to actually fund a staff member to work full-time on this project. So, Mayor Foltz, you mentioned this as your key topic here. Talk a little bit about how Lake Wales is approaching this.
Okay, our city CRA has taken up that challenge. We currently have 6 single affordable homes under construction, with 2 already under contract. Through the CRA, the city is subsidizing affordable housing construction on CRA-owned property. That's an incentive for them to come in. We partnered with a nonprofit organization that has built 5 of those homes. We partnered with the FDC, who has built 1 and has another one to come. So every way that we can see a contractor coming in, and we make certain that this is not that $300,000 home that he was talking about, but we make certain that it really is workforce housing or affordable housing. And additionally, the city has pledged $1 million grant to the Housing Authority to redevelop the property into mixed income apartments, because we're trying to get away from that look of just having having housing there for the needy, but with the mixed income housing, you don't know who the haves and the have-nots are. So that gives us an opportunity there to go into our Lake Wales Connected plan that we've got, to where we can actually connect those communities that have been divided for so long because of a railroad track or because of color or culture. And that's bringing everybody into those mixed development areas to where nobody is going to be able to determine anyone's income and try to embarrass them because of that. But we've got another nonprofit organization that we're partnering with that's coming out of Orlando that will be coming in and doing some building as well. So we are a little bit ahead of the game as far as getting the houses built and getting people into them. And this is in the most depressed area that we have in town. And there is a business building that's going up in that same area too, through the CRA, to where there will be residents living upstairs, business concerns downstairs. So we've taken a good look at this, and we've got a good start towards it. We're not finished yet, but we're going to keep moving until we get someplace to where we can have housing for all of our workforce, and we can have housing for some of the people who really need the affordability.
And leveraging the CRAs is an interesting model that you mentioned. I know, for example, down payment assistance is something in Winter Haven that's been looked at through the CRA programs to help people get into that home, to make it more affordable. I don't know about all of you, but that first down payment on a home is unattainable for a lot of people, especially if that starter home is $300,000. To get that 20%, I don't know many people, first-time home buyers, that would be able to do that. So, Mayor Pospikel, you've got your green card here. Please address this issue.
Great ideas. I've heard great ideas today. In Auburndale, we've been taking our community development block grant funds in the last couple of years, going in targeted areas within the city of Auburndale and purchasing lots, and then in turn, working with Habitat for Humanity of East Polk and Julie Ferris, the executive director, we have been donating these lots back to Habitat for Humanity. In turn, then, it's giving families, we've had 5 homes, it's given families the opportunity to be probably some of these people the first property owners in their entire family to ever own homes, but we've had the ability to create great new citizens and come into these, I don't want to say blighted, but come into these areas that needed help, and turned into some very, very great homes, and it's worked very well for our city, and Habitat has been great partners to work with. Very
Again,
great.
Partners, and that seems to be a very key word. Mayor Hatch, Mulberry.
Thank you. Mulberry's got a lot coming, and there's one development that we've been talking to for about 10 years now, believe it or not, out west of Mulberry. That's supposedly going to be up to 6,000 homes. That will like triple the population of Mulberry if it ever comes to fruition.
I just saw Chairman Wilson like sit up in his chair.
Well, yeah. They've had that land, they've had the, what's the proper word on the water rights, IRCs or some kind of RCs, I don't remember. But, and they've got all that done. But right now, what's really happening is that there's a smaller subdivision going in north of Mulberry that's about 600 homes. There's one where there was behind the credit union there, that's going to be about 50 homes. And up behind Walmart, there's another group trying to put in low rent housing apartments, which is like 96 apartments. And I know they've been to the county commission getting some permits and stuff like that. And so there's a lot going on. But the thing is, that's just one thing going on in the city. I mean, you still got, you know, sewer grants and I&I grants and, you know, museum and the theater and all this other stuff going on. There's just so many things. So you try to have some control. And like one that was said earlier, we try to give some CRA benefits or initiatives to get the contractors to help them. Mm-hmm. But, and I say this with a little tongue-in-cheek, I want to give the CRA benefits, but I want the benefit to go to the buyer, not to put more profit in the contractor's pocket. And that's hard to necessarily, I don't know what the word is, make sure that happens. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not above, you know, I'm not against the contractor making his money. No, don't get me wrong there, because they deserve their share also. But I would like it to go to the person trying to live in that residence.
Understood. We'll go to Mayor West and then Mayor Metz.
Thank you again, Katie. The city of Haines City realized that, you know, our Haines City medium household average is $33,305, and we realized that is, you know, a lot lower than the average of U.S. wages as far as affordable houses. And we realized that also, like Polk County, the average median income, even for Polk County, is, you know, $53,600. Here's the concern that the city of Haines City has, because we realize if 50% of your income is going toward your home, then you probably don't have an affordable home, because 50% of your income is going there. But nevertheless, and we realize the fact that we want our citizens to live, work, and play in Haines City. We have Advent Health at Heart of Florida, where where our nurses there, you know, they work diligently, providing care for our citizens. But the problem there is our own nurses can't live in our city because there's not an affordable home for them. You know, our police officers can't live in our city because we don't have affordable home. Our city workers who's barely making it can't even live in our city because we don't have affordable home. So what we're doing to try to curtail some of that is that every piece of land that the city owns, that we're in turns, and I agree with Mayor Fultz, we're utilizing our CRA, and we're utilizing Habitat for Humanity, we're using Keystone, we're utilizing all these initiative that we can go out and we can build an affordable home back on a piece of property that the city owns. We're looking at building even veteran homes in our city because there are veterans that served in this great country that's sleeping under a bridge, which disheartening. It hurts my heart to see that. So we are very aware that our homes, by these developers, when they come in and they want to build a home and they say, oh, this is an affordable home, but this home is $325,000, but our median income is $33,000. That's not affordable for our city. So we are working toward affordable homes in our city, and within the next 10 years, we should have a lot more because right now we only have 4 apartment complexes that is considered to be affordable homes. So we are working with that diligently, and thank you all.
Mayor Butts?
Yeah, this is such a complex problem because there's so many variables that are going on at the same time. And so the partnerships we referred to earlier are critical. And because we don't build houses ourselves as a city, as Mayor Dancer said. And so we don't want to be in that business. But we also have to have good market-priced housing being built at the same time, and multifamily market-priced housing, because one of the things we're skipping in this is that millennials moved into apartments. And so when the apartments went away, so the rents went up, and so all of a sudden, all our prices got driven up. So we are now in the position in Polk County where multifamily housing developers can really think about us as a place to come and have an adequate return to be able to apply. Then it becomes our responsibility to tag on the portion of those that need to be for affordable housing, the percentage of that. So so at 3 levels, we really try and look at this. And our commission in 2018 made the commitment to build 500 affordable housing units, and we are at 886 on the plan now in terms of units that will be built within the next 2 more years, and we'll have that done. And so the process of that is all of a sudden people start to say, oh, you're really serious about this, and let's sit down. So on affordable housing, we create a portion of it that's 30% AMI, 50% AMI is a percentage of, and 80% AMI, and so that the project can blend and they can see what mix they have. Of course, we take all the grant funding we possibly can and apply it everywhere that we can, but we also want to make sure we're building workforce housing at the same time. Our workforce housing has to take place because if that isn't happening, then we don't have that first home that somebody can be able to own and live in as we go along, while we're trying to attract jobs, and while and then this inevitable press that we see coming to our county where we're going to have more job opportunities and people that want to live here. So as this takes place, we have to be thinking about our housing at 3 different levels all the time, or it won't work anyway, because we have to have places for everyone to be able to go. So that $300,000 housing is necessary too. It's just that we recognize that we've got to protect the infills that you're talking about, Mayor West, which is so important to be able to do, and make sure that every one of those infill properties can happen, and all the garage, and our ordinances don't hurt us in terms of the things that can be occupied. And so as we do so, we can find lots of units in the process of that. So I applaud everybody's efforts, especially particularly in the areas of veterans, in terms of protecting that for them, but we can do more. And the most recent project we've had on the market-priced housing, which is Meriton, which is downtown, just a little north of Lake Mirror in Lakeland, 305 units. That project has been that apartment complex has been able to raise their rents twice in the process of just leasing out initially, because they're finding that their opportunity for market-priced housing rentals is higher than they thought. That makes you viable for the next project the minute that we start to do that. And that's happening here, which is again why it's important for us to protect impact fees and growth as we go, and growth management as we go.
Well, Mayor, but rental housing, I mean, you touched on such an important topic. Our Economic Development Council pulled some statistics, and since 2012, of all the new housing that's come into our area, only 3% of that was multifamily or rental housing. At the Chamber of Commerce, we have people coming in almost every day asking where they can rent something. Frost Prew's not here today, but I had a story of a gentleman, young guy, transferred into Nucor and is living in an RV at one of the RV parks because that's the only place that he was able to find to be able to rent something right now. People living at hotels because they're trying to buy houses, but they keep getting outbid and there's nowhere to rent. So attracting that rental developer is so important to our community and such a great opportunity. So thank you for your looking at that. I want to pivot one moment. You know, a lot of this discussion has been about money. How do we pay for these things? And the general public might be thinking, well, the American Rescue Plan just came out. All of these millions of dollars are coming into certain communities in this area. I already see Chairman Wilson smiling over there. And so we did actually get a question from the audience on this as well, which I thought was very appropriate. So first I would like to ask Chairman Wilson, since you are receiving the largest amount of funds from the American Rescue Plan, if you can speak a little bit about how those funds can be allocated and how the county is looking to allocate that one time, or really I guess it's for you, it's divided over 2 years, $70 million each year, how you are allocating those funds.
That is a good question. We started out looking at the overall picture of what to do with these funds, and during this, when this all started a year and a half ago, when the CARES money came, in the last, I think total together since we got our CARES money back, I can't remember the date when that was, but that was $126 million that we went to work hard on getting out to the public, to the individuals, to the businesses, partnering up with great people in the county to make that happen. And then, of course, the landlord, we got some more money, which was for the landlords because they were hurting. I think that was $22 million. So when we got this ARP money, there's a pretty long list of what we can and can't do. And, we looked at, helping this county, just like the stuff that we've been talking about in this meeting. If it was from roads, broadband, doing things with this money that we can put our hands on, the people in this county. And that meant, and we all agreed on that. The board agreed on doing things to help this county. So that's our initiative. We're looking at projects that would have never come to the board. Would have come, but it had been years down the road because we did not have the funding for it. Drainage, roads, anything involved in the county them things that you've been putting off for a long time that are very well needed. And on top of that, that brought up, when we got all our numbers figured out and exactly what we thought we could do, it left over about $10.5 million for social services, homeless, and we're looking at that right now. But we've heard a lot of things. We get the input just like y'all do. It's one of them things, dang if you do and dang if you don't. And we're going to really look hard at helping the county overall for a long-term effect. We want to help people that are also some of our nonprofits, but the dollar amount isn't there as big as a lot of people would want. We've opened that up, and if we basically said we're not going to do anything for the county, we're going to let everybody come and tell us what they need for their needs, we don't have enough money to cover all that. And that's a terrible thing to say, but it is. But make the long and short of it, we're going to do things for the county that are hands-on on this money. And I know a lot of all the cities that got their, they were getting not equal amounts. I know you wish you were, but amounts, you probably have a lot of different ideas. But that's what we're going to do, and try to help the overall deal and get this county in a better position down the road and what we lost, on this deal. Every city in here, this pandemic we went through, I was going to try not to even say that word today because I didn't even want to talk about it. But it cost all of us, not us, but our municipalities in the county. It hurt. And try to get back on our feet and move forward and move through this.
So the audience member that asked the question specifically asked about Winter Haven and Lakeland as well, and the specific plans that your communities may have. So I will give it to Mayor Mutz, then Mayor Dantzler, then Mayor LaCascia.
Specific plans with respect to?
The American Rescue Plan funds.
Oh, well, we're using the largest portion of it for a sewer project that was a wonderful opportunity to resolve, and which had really just festered earlier. We're doing some portion of it then for the arts, and then we are doing, we're holding back a portion of it so that it's discretionary.
Very good. Mayor Dantzler?
Yeah, Winter Haven has, I think we've taken $3.5 million and committed that to affordable workforce housing, and the rest is being talked about right now, but it's more discretionary at this point, but we haven't decided. But roughly half of it's gone for affordable housing.
I forgot we did $1 million for affordable housing as well.
Very good. Mayor LaCascia?
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud about simply the term affordable housing and putting myself in a developer's position. I built some homes in my time, and I don't understand how affordable housing could be produced at a time when we're paying incredible amounts of dollars for the land to begin with. And then materials and labor are 30 to 40% over what they were just a few short years ago. I think that I'd like to, not to do it here, in my own mind, I'd like to think about what are we talking about in terms of what is affordable housing. And I don't know as a developer how they're going to get involved with trying to get back their profit. They would have to put out many units, and that gets risky in a time when prices for material and labor are going up and you've already paid a bundle for the land. So I know I'm not offering very much for it, but I'm really thinking about how does affordable housing come from the developer's standpoint.
Well, and as Mayor Mutz said, that certainly underscores how complicated the issue of affordable housing is in terms of how a developer makes the decision to move forward with certain communities. Just to stay just for a moment on the pandemic, but just a real quick question when it comes to this, and this is really more of a positive question. So obviously all of our communities, all of our businesses, all of the individuals watching today have had to make adjustments. There are things that we've had to do to accomplish many of the amazing things. As you said, walk and chew gum, we had to deal with all that, but our communities were still moving forward. Were there any things that your municipalities or the county did that were innovative or different ideas on how to get work done that are going to now be the norm? Things that you will continue to do because they actually helped improve the way you do business or the way that citizens can interact with your community?
Zoom.
Well, I have to say, as a citizen, it's wonderful to be able to be cooking dinner and attending a commission meeting. So that has definitely been a benefit to the citizens to be able to do that and pivot to watching meetings on social media. I watch the county commission meetings, and me and the 10 other people on Facebook that are watching during those times to be able to absorb all that while working. Mayor Fultz, did you have an example?
Well, as he said, Zoom is one of the things that will never go away. And I think that some of your businesses now, the corporate businesses, are actually using that platform to let people work from home. And that's going to help with the carbon footprint. That's going to help with people actually being there when they're supposed to be there, getting the work done and so forth. But as far as that's concerned, we see that as an avenue for individuals who can't, or on vacation or anywhere. They won't have to miss that meeting if they can Zoom in and get that done. And I believe that many employees that have been working from home during this time, they have grown to love being at home doing that work. And I think this is something that a lot of corporate areas are looking at as far as one of the incentives for employees to sign on and stay there and continue to go forward with what's taking place.
Well, and it certainly changes the landscape in terms of, as you mentioned, the recruitment of individuals to come to decide to where to live and stay. And people can now choose in many professions to live wherever they want because they can remote in. So it makes the quality of life of communities that much more important. It makes the accessibility of communities that much more important. So as we talk about quality of life, there are many of you sitting around this table whose communities have, much like Mayor West said, you want people to live, breathe, play, work, raise their family in Haines City. You want to offer everything for those communities and to become a fabric of that community, but as Mayor Berrien said, still maintain the culture, the familiarity that, you can tell my age, the Gilmore Girls style of living, you know, that town square where everyone knows each other. So I wanted to give an opportunity for several of you that I know have initiatives going on, but then an opportunity for anyone around the table to talk about revitalization of your downtown cores and initiatives that you may have when it comes to creating, maintaining, bringing all these new people moving into the fold of the culture of your community. So Mayor Foltz, I had an opportunity to grab a beer at the Ranch House in downtown Lake Wales not too long ago, and your Main Street was doing an amazing event in the downtown. Even though it was pouring outside, it was pouring with people as well coming into your downtown core. So talk a little bit about that initiative, and then I'll open it up to the group. So we'll go with Mayor Foltz first, Mayor Berrien afterwards, and then open it up to the group as well.
Our initiative is called Lake Wales Connected. And that Connected plan, once again, is coming through the CRA. And that CRA money, we feel as though if we bring up all of this property, the taxes are gonna go up. If the taxes go up, the increment on those taxes will come back and help pay for whatever we're doing in that area. But with the Lake Wales Connected plan, we're redoing the whole downtown, at least two major streets in that downtown area. And it's going to be done very well in a very different style than it is now, but we will not lose that historic look on those buildings. We'll just face those buildings up to make them look the way they should look. We put out restaurant incentives, which have brought in at least 4 new restaurants, and those restaurant incentives are anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 to get them there, to get them started, to get them up. And that has worked very well, but with the pandemic, that has slowed everything down pretty much to a crawl. But we have already borrowed the money for the next 5-year plan that we've got on that. We've already borrowed the money to go ahead and get that work done. And with the tax increment going up after that work is done, the tax increment actually is going to pay for that loan and get it paid off. So that Lake Wales Connected plan, the whole idea, like I said once before, was the fact that we've got people living across the track on the other side, and they've been looking pretty much segregated for so many years that now we are integrating the whole city and bringing everyone together. And that's why we're doing so much in that needed area in order to connect them to that downtown area so they can feel that this is their downtown as well. And with all of that going on, I feel as though people are beginning to look, they're beginning to recognize that the city is growing and we're bringing in quality. So the biggest thing that we've got to look at now is schooling, because we've got 3 middle schools there and only 1 high school. So we're gonna have to expand in that area to prepare for everyone that's coming in. And with all of this excitement that we've got going with the new housing that's coming in and with the revitalization of downtown and connecting all of the city into one piece, I think that we're probably better off now than we've been in the past 20 years as far as getting that going. And if you have an opportunity, come to Lake Wales and take a look at what the plan looks like. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mayor Berrien?
Yeah, so down in Fort Meade, we just recently received the designation as Main Street. And so we have an awesome group of people led by our one and only Representative Melanie Bell. She's the president. And they work tirelessly to come up with ways as to how do we get, improve the culture, get the participation coming out, providing activities. We recently had a arts festival. We had it was a competition in which we allow everyone of all ages to enter works of art that they have produced. And it was a great turnout. We brought in artists from our hometown, Polk County. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. But anyway, one gentleman is from Fort Meade, and the other gentleman, I believe he's actually from Bartow, and did some work on Broadway. And so we're looking to implement those things to build a sense of community, to expand on it. The sense of community is there, but to expand on it and to continue to draw the people down. Another thing we've done as the commission is we have given our city manager authority to go after the vacant buildings downtown, some that have appears to be abandoned and have not received any type of response from the owners. They have accrued all types of liens on it. So anyone coming to who would like to invest in that building, it would be almost unimaginable, the cost associated with that. So we're coming up with creative ways to gain those buildings and then be able to offer them to merchants so that the overall look and appearance of downtown is improved. We just recently updated our vision for the downtown so that when we apply for the different grants and that we're going after, we get all the points that we can. So we are excited about what's going on in Fort Meade. It's a lot of hustle and bustle, but at the same time, we want to be responsible with the growth and make sure everybody's at the table. And so that's what we're working on in Fort Meade.
Well, and congratulations on becoming a Main Street community.
Thank you.
As you look around the table, those that do have Main Streets or downtown development areas are the areas that really drives forward because you have someone focusing on that. And an example of that would certainly be Bartow Main Street. And
Yes.
As you said, if you haven't driven around lately, even the bones of the residential, the historic homes that you have within walking distance of your downtown core are so important. So Mayor Shawblam, would you like to address this?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, thank you. Tim and I were talking before we got started that one of the unique aspects of Bartow is her footprint. You know, I live about 2 miles south of here, and I can walk pretty much from this location to my house, and except for one small segment, never leave a sidewalk. And so everything south of here is pretty much residential, and so to be able to drive some more intentional development in our downtown corridor is critical for the overall flourishing of the city. And we have probably one of the most active downtowns in the county. Linda Holcomb and Main Street Bartow does just such an incredible job of drawing in visitors from all over the state to see what Bartow has to offer. And now that we're expanding our real catalyst type of businesses with the opening of a new brewery, an opening of a wine bar, some really unique boutique retail opportunities in this area, we're seeing some of that intentional investment pay off. And so I referred earlier to the master plan, and it's no great shock that our downtown corridor is a catalyst area for that development. And you know, the area where we're sitting in right now is considered generally the primary location, but we have so many opportunities when we're talking about expanding our downtown west and east with some intentional residential development, with some intentional mixed-use opportunities, the potential for a really unique stormwater feature like what has been developed out in Claremont and places like that to really make your downtown area the focal point. Because when I think about my images of cities in the county and cities that I visit, the picture that comes into your mind really is what you see in the downtown. That's you know, the image that you walk away from your city, and we want to put our best face forward. And it's probably fair to say that Bartow hasn't always done that, but we're hoping with some really intentional development that's the lasting image that people walk away with when they go back home.
Well, and you mentioned Sims earlier, and if you could wipe the slate clean, but there are plenty of cities, quote unquote, trying to do that, and they have to build a fake downtown in the middle of that. What we have here is the power of authenticity, right? And you've got that in spades down in downtown Bartow. So congratulations to you and all the work that you're doing there on that. Mayor Pospikel, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, one of the most important things I've heard is the walkability of going downtown. You just want to park your car or walk downtown and be able to take everything in. Auburndale's always struggled a little bit with our restaurants. We've been able to take CRA money and put it in the form of grants. And of course, one year we had one fire and it took out 2 restaurants at the same time, and they've never been able to come back. But we've been able to create this CRA money, this grant money, and we've got 2 new restaurants in Auburndale within walking distance of the park. We've got another business, and I look at the building every day. I don't know what's going in, but they're making a wonderful, beautiful building, again, using this CRA money. And then I think, sounds like I'm bragging, I think next week we're going to have a Vietnamese that specializes in desserts. And they've got a beautiful building, but this is done in our CRA area with CRA grant money. And you know, when we first set this money aside about 5 to 6 years ago, we had no takers. And we thought, you know, wow, is this going to work? And working with our community development director and the like, they've got this money out and in the public, and people are taking it and using it, and it's really revitalizing our downtown area also. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that walkability is so important. You know, all of your communities have a walkability score. And if you don't know what that walkability score is, you should definitely look. We have a phrase in downtown, live more, drive less, because that also helps with our transportation issues as well. But you create an environment where you don't have to leave. You can work there, you can eat there, you can drink there, you can exercise there. You can do all of those things in one place. Mayor Mutz and then Mayor Hatch.
Walkability, restaurants, both matter a lot. And also just creating the mindset you don't have to park by the place that you're going to walk into, you know, and that you're going to see additional things in your downtown when you go there. We are trying to begin a little bit with the end in mind, and we really want about 8,500 people in our downtown living. And so one of the things that we're doing in our Catalyst 2.0 plan is to how do we develop that in our master plan? How do we develop that? How do we find additional condos that can be built, that people can live in the process of that? We're expanding cafe seating and taking away parking spaces when we do some of that, and which, you know, is the arguable issue as well, but it expands the ability for people to sit outside and just feel like they hang more. And then you create a walking path that goes by that, so people on the street can spend some time talking and interfacing with them as well. And the people that don't like that will eat inside, but people that do like that can sit outside. We are increasing the number of jobs we are trying to attract downtown, and so we have a problem with second floor occupancy, and of course we're going through this whole remote work issue as well, making it difficult for some people to think about that. But what ordinances on parking are in place that make that difficult? And how can we relax some of those things so that we can make it easier to do that as we consider an additional parking garage as well? And of course, using CRA funds to be able to do that, and in the process of doing all that, trying to find some of our larger buildings downtown that need to be renovated and making those more attractive spaces, because you go from the delta of the vacancy or a poor use to something that can be something that is an Arabella's, if you will.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The best Italian restaurant in Central Florida. Bill, before you leave that topic, you know, you recently built a new parking garage in the downtown, and I have to compliment you for it because it looks like a building. It kind of makes you feel like you're walking through a larger downtown. You've got some retail space that was built out on the corners. If you're ever frustrated, there's an axe throwing business down there. You can go throw the axe at the piece of wood. But do I understand that that was a public-private partnership to get that garage built? Can you explain a little bit about that?
We couldn't get that garage built until we created a condo process for it. And so we really have 5 different entities that each bought spaces. And they have first right of refusal with each other as they want to expand. In the city's 49 spaces are public parking at night spaces as well that we released that are on the bottom floor. We have 60 total spaces. So that's a 385 space building. In order to do that, and so we found partners that wanted to come together to get that, and the person who owned the lot, who had 120 spaces, got those 120 spaces restored in part of, in the garage itself. It's the way we're going to look at trying to do the second garage, the very, very same way. So we want to find some partners that want to do that kind of thing because it makes it possible to do what we can't do otherwise. While we recognize that autonomous vehicles will come, and we need to recognize that you want to have enough parking, but not too much parking, because we're going to watch that go away, which is why your cafe spaces become more important all the time as well. Anyway, because we want to create more opportunity for pedestrians and less for vehicles.
Did you put any charging stations, or is that a discussion in your downtown?
We have charging stations downtown, and we'll do that more. Our consumers are going to drive us to that. We are going to see more electric vehicles, and it's going to become a need. Charging stations, though, can also be remote and near to a main road, as long as there's maybe a restaurant nearby, because people will actually integrate the charging into their travel plans as they're going along and maybe eat, because on the fast charging stations, you can get a big pickup in a half an hour and certainly in an hour.
Yeah, I mean, there is a electronic Ford F-150. So if you never thought the electronic vehicle thing would pick up in Polk County, guys, a Ford F-150 is about to be all electric.
I have
so let's
one
prepare
on
for
order.
that.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm on the list to check it out. It's very exciting. Mayor Hatch.
Thank you. I was born and raised in Mulberry, so a lot of times when you see something, I'm going to say the word ugly, all the time, you get used to it being there, and you just sort of don't look at it anymore. So sometimes it's nice to have, when you have a fresh face in your arena, to say, we could do this with that spot. And that's what Mulberry has with its city manager. He has come in and done that in several areas in our city. One with our library. We put it in what I called the basement of our little civic center. We now call it the first floor because you go around back. And we have a beautiful new library down there that people really from all over the county go to. I mean, because of the programs that our library offers, because they have programs for all ages, divided into different groups. They got the preschool group, they've got the elementary group, the middle, and so forth, adults and so forth. And sometimes not all the same one. Like, just for example, one of my granddaughters loves the Pokemon Club, which George doesn't know anything about, but they like it, so that's a good thing. He's redone our pool area where we have our pool, and we put in a little skate park. It's a skate park that's more probably for a beginner, somebody that doesn't know how to skate or use a skateboard like me, but I'm not going to do it because I'd break something. But we've just redone that whole area, put in a stage down there, so before the pandemic, we could have Saturday night bands come in there and play. And the city picked up the cost of that, so it was free to our citizens. And we can have, like I know Lake Wales has Pioneer Days or something coming up pretty soon, and you could have something, and we've had some like that. We have a Harvest Festival in ours. But so our city manager is just great at stuff like that. He's made a cultural center where the old library was when we moved the library to the first floor of the Civic Center. And we have art displays in there, and it changes every 6 weeks. So you can go in there, you know, today, and then probably in about 6 weeks, you can go in there and it'll be a completely different show. And they have, you know, an opening night and all that kind of stuff. But the cream of the crop to me is the theater. There was a theater in downtown Mulberry called the Gem Theater, G-E-M, because it was a real gym, that I went to as a little boy. You know, you could pay a nickel and go in there and you could see a movie and get a popcorn and a Coke. But, and of course, most all the shows were Westerns, or cartoons. But today, the CRA, we've spent like over $2 million remodeling that place. And what happened, our city manager, it belonged to the phosphate unions, where the workers used to, you know, they had unions at the phosphate companies. Well, the unions had about dissolved. I think they were down to about 3 members, and they could not afford to keep up the building. So we made a deal with them for them to give that building to the city, and we'll still let them meet there as long as they existed for free. But now it belongs to the city. We took the $2 million and remodeled it, and we've got a nice theater there that we can have dinner theaters. You could bring in a small orchestra. Once a month, we have dinner in a theater in there. For example, it's sold out now for the 25th of this month, but they're showing the movie Young Frankenstein, and there'll be dinner with that movie, and it costs $18. I mean, a dinner and a movie for $18, you can't beat that. So, you know, we've just done a lot of things, and I keep talking about my city manager. He loves kids, and he does the most that he can do for the quality of life for our citizens and our kids in our community, and he would bend over backwards to do anything for any one of them. Thank you.
Well, and I think a lot of our goals here is to make this a place where all of our children want to stay, right? We all want to have our families choose to stay in this area, so I think that's an underlying motivation for us all. Mayor Daley, talk to us about the Lake Alfred perspective.
Thank you. Just real quick, I want to say Lake Alfred probably has some of the best restaurants in Polk County, and they're not chain restaurants. They're restaurants that people come from other cities to come and eat. And but in Lake Alfred, we still have our festivals. We have our Bluegrass Bash, and we have our Heritage Days, and we do the cruise in every couple of months with the old cars. And we recently have a new logo mascot for the city. It's a bass fish, because we've had a bass as our logo since inception. But we modeled after Lakeland Swan Program, where people can purchase the swan and make it like their business. But to start out, we did some seed swans, and we took them to the schools. We took them to the Discovery High School and to the middle school and to the elementary school, and we had the kids paint them in different designs. And then we finished them off, and they're displayed in the city. We've got a lot of positive feedback from our community that they really like the fish. They like the fact that it's an identity and it's a community pride. So it's just kind of a small thing, but it brings people together.
I think what's been underscored here is that for the people watching, go down and explore those downtown communities. You know, one thing that I've loved that so many of our communities have done is the murals on the wall. We've talked about those, bringing in artists. And I don't know if there's already a mural tour in Polk County, but Murtis Young will make it happen if there needs to be. But the amount of, and they're all different. They feel different. They look different. I think Mayor Mutz, in your community, you have incentives through the city for murals to go up in buildings, for businesses to, quote, donate their walls as a canvas. But it's just so phenomenal. And that also brings people in, because it's all about what picture you can take on social media, right? To be able to share, so you get the young people in that downtown core. You know, Mayor Dantzler 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity to host ABC Action News in downtown Winter Haven, and I didn't even know they did this, but they come and they explore the areas and they do their whole morning show from there. And I really thought it'd be a 10-minute segment. It was 5 hours of Winter Haven on ABC Action News in downtown. But they are looking for those revitalized downtown cores to really celebrate. So if your communities haven't looked into that, I would highly recommend that. And Mayor Dantzler, did you want to say any closing comments in terms of a downtown revitalization?
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty interesting. We got to spend 5 hours, and Katie was there for all 5 hours. So, you know, bravo to you.
thank you.
Was proud of her for what she did.
5 a.m. is really early, but when Dave from
Yeah.
Richard's Coffee brings coffee down for you, you can get it through. So.
No, and one other thing I did want to touch on, and it has to do with electric vehicles. You know, there's only less than 3% of the vehicles in this country are now electric, but there is this big tidal wave coming. And the private sector will eventually catch up with these charging stations, but Winter Haven's, we're going to put 5 charging stations in on public property. We need to all consider doing this because this wave is coming. And the reason I don't drive electric cars, I don't feel like I can charge it up and I'm scared of running out of gas, but as soon as I can get a place where I can fill it up, I'll have one. So that is coming, and so we as communities can just put one, even if it's at your city hall where somebody can charge up their vehicle. That's something that'll do a lot for help when you're downtown. But anyway, that's my final comments. Is we need to try to do that. So
Very good. So I want to remind the audience, we just have a little bit of time left. So if you have any other questions that you would like to submit to the mayors, please let me know. First, I want to open it up. Are there any topics that we have not discussed today that you want to ask of another community about? Mayor West, I see you shaking your head, so I'm going to give you the microphone. Are there any other topics that you want to hear how someone else is handling it within their community?
Thank you so much again, Katie. Yes, it's the topic that I'm most concerned about is called home rule. We live local. When I say we, I'm referring to every municipality throughout Polk County, that we do not need Tallahassee dictating to us on what we do locally. I don't know if you all are aware of House Bill 403. House Bill 403 was passed this year in Tallahassee. That bill was the fact that it was a home-based business, which means that next door to you could be a golf cart shop and nothing you can do about it. You know, so I think that we need to continually to fight against that bill, because that bill is, I think it was a bill that should never have been passed. Nevertheless, it was passed because that's only going to grow. You may have a funeral home next door to you. Who wants that? So that House bill, I think that, you know, it's something that I think that we as mayors really need to focus on, and we really need to stay in front of our legislators. You're right, we advocate year-round. But they only give us 2 days a year to go visit them, but we do advocate year-round. So House Bill 403, home-based business, and then you have the property rights bill that was passed. There's several bills that was passed this year that I think that we need to stay in front of our legislators about. So I think that's something that we really need to talk about today.
Well, that opens up a good question. So committee weeks start. If it's not this week, it's next week. It's start next week. Thank you. Next week, committee weeks start, and we'll start to get an indication. As you all know, session is not just January to March. Session is year-round, and certainly we're going to start to get a peek behind the curtain in terms of what's going to be coming forward during this legislative session. So are there any other issues? I think home rule is certainly one. Mayor Daley's going, here, it's green, it's green. Mayor Daley, what do you see on the horizon here?
Well, the subject that I think we really need to talk about is diversity. I look around the room, and we're the leaders of the county. But if you look at our individual makeup, we don't make up the same as our constituency. I see 70% of us the same demographic. I kind of put a little chart together that in this room, there's 0% of different ages. We're all basically the same age or so. only 10% of a different gender, only 30% of a different color. There's no other cultures that to speak of in general, and our constituencies are definitely not of that makeup. That I know we have, our commissions at home, and there are some other, diverse people, but we need to make a concerted effort to recruit people to run for office, recruit some young people, because they have kids in school, for example, and they're going to have a different take on something like, sidewalks, or there's no other lady mayors here. And I was at the TPO meeting. There are very few ladies on that committee. So there's other committees and things that we need to get people more involved in. We need to encourage them to run for office. We need to make sure we try to get them elected. Maybe we appoint some of our lady commissioners to be mayors, because this is, I think, the third or fourth year I've been the only lady mayor. And I see a room filled with, women's rights and, trying to elevate women's positions and so forth. So, and not just women, but all the other entities, we need to have more diversity among our leadership.
Simultaneously today, the Lakeland and Winter Haven Chambers are running a candidate training school to try to elevate that and show people the resources that are available. And I told everyone on that call, it's a 3-day course. I said, now, when you're done with the course, you need to go back and watch the Mayors Roundtable, because if you want to run for City Commission, you're going to hear a lot of things talked about to give you a realistic viewpoint and the issues that are tackled by governments. Bill, how about you?
Well, I'll just pivot off of that if I could, because I think we have such a wonderful opportunity in Polk County to focus on inclusion. And this is a huge issue nationally, but what is most important is it's important for us locally. And we are already doing some things that are very much unlike other areas of the country where we do this well, but we have lots of work left to do. So we began an initiative really born out of last summer's riots to a large degree called Lift Lakeland, and in that, one of the areas that we're getting the most footing in is mentoring. And mentoring does this. Mentoring starts to set people up for what are some things you could do and how could you be included. And we didn't call it Lift Lakeland, we called it Lift Mentoring, because we really want it to be broadened across Polk County. So the model, and we don't care about it being limited to our city's footprint. So the model that we're really trying to create is something that would be easy for other cities to be able to assimilate as we get it going. But it just allows businesses or organizations to be able to take a mentoring role for their people and their group to be able to do this. Because how do we expand this effort? We expand it out of our citizenry. This isn't a government position and a government responsibility to be able to do. This is heart-to-heart stuff that can be done. And it's longer term. It takes 5 years of investment, 10 years of investment in people, and a continuing relationship that goes on and follows them as they graduate and go into a career to see how people are doing. We have great opportunity to do that. When we think of our state, there's lots of cities that have unique features about them that people are attracted to. We're the heart of this state, and I think we can be an area of the state that reflects the heart of people well. And if we are people-focused in what we do, more so than other areas, and this can sound like, all this just kind of tripe and ethereal kinds of things that would be nice to say in a public forum. It's what we can do excellently, and it's the long, hard work of cultivating inclusion and diversity that will make a difference long-term, and we are ripe to be able to do so.
Thank you, Mayor Mutz. Mayor Shawblam, I'll give you the final word here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Bill, thank you so much for what you're doing with the Lift Lakeland project. Several of us in Bartow have watched from the outside the priorities that City of Lakeland has established to try to make that a priority, and we've tried, at least in our own way, to follow suit. We partnered with the National League of Cities Real Leadership Program to begin some conversations within our city around the idea of race and equity and what it looks like to be an inclusive environment for the city of Bartow. And one of the reasons that we're trying to make this a central concern is that, we feel very fortunate in Bartow, certainly in the larger county, that some of the some of the very visual issues that have taken place in our country haven't been manifested in the same way in our county, but it would be a tremendous mistake to assume that just because they haven't been expressed in the same way that they don't exist, or that we're exempt from them being a very significant issue in the future. And so, those of us in positions of influence, it's incumbent on us to lead those discussions. And it's not easy, it's uncomfortable. We have to be willing to acknowledge fault and wrongdoing in a lot of places in life. But the only way I know to improve things is to be able to take a good, honest look, warts and all, and then begin the conversation to figure out what meaningful action can we take to correct the issue going forward.
Well said. Chairman Wilson.
Yes, I would just like to say here at the end, it's been an honor to be here with all you people from all the different municipalities in Polk County. And I've heard numerous times us working with the county, or the county working with us. I just want to let you know that, anytime, I mean, y'all are all great, been great. And anything you need, that's what we want to do. We want to make things easier, and it just boils down about communication. So I would just, don't hesitate to come to us about anything.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, I would like to thank the Polk Vision organization, your board of directors, the amazing staff that's sitting at the back of this room for helping to bring this event together again, to the Polk Vision Leadership Exchange Series sponsors, Citizens Bank and Trust, Polk County BOCC, and Tampa Electric for continuing to drive forward this important conversation, and most importantly, to all of the leaders sitting around the table today. It's not been an easy 18 months, but frankly, is it ever easy? If it's not one issue, it's the other issue. You just frankly had to learn a lot about an issue you never thought you'd have to this year, but thank you for your service. As Mayor Daley said, it is so important that we build the bench and we set the example to show to people of all ages that you can be involved in what is happening in your community, that you can sit on city committees, you can run for office, and you can have a part of making the future of Polk County. So again, thank you so much to all of you for being here today. Thank you to everyone who watched online. We really appreciate it. You are all the ambassadors for helping to solve our greatest challenges and create our greatest opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.